Hi, everybody. I'm Josh from Brown Dog Gadgets. I'm here with Pete, who's off to the side, producing this wonderful segment. And we're going to be doing some fun paper circuits activities today with our fun folks here at Schiller Learning, who sell and carry many of our fun products, including our paper circuits kits, which will be showing off some fun paper circuits activities, which are just great ways to get both kids and adults into doing basic circuitry projects or adding lights and effects and other fun things to existing craft projects. Hey, Pete, would you do me a favor and turn off the air conditioning? Because we're in one of our warehouses. It'd be the one over in our break room. And I forgot our air conditioning unit's up there. We haven't done this for a while. It's kicked on. I don't want to make sure people aren't hearing constant air conditioned noises during the middle of this recording. So apologies for that if you hear wonderful airflow happening right now. So anyway, back to paper circuit stuff. So we do fun paper circuits things. Paper circuits is using a conductive tape, such as the stuff we have here, usually an LED, but also things like motors and fans and other fun little circuitry, simple circuitry parts. And then also a battery, like this one right here. We have a little coin cell battery. A lot of time people just use these for things like simple greeting cards. It's the go-to simple activity is making a fun greeting card. Like this one here, nice little birthday card we made. But you can do so much more with them. We can do fun intermediate and advanced projects with them as well, which is why they're really nice and versatile as a learning tool for elementary, middle school, high school, even adults. So there's just a wide range of things you can do with it. It's just a matter of finding the right directions and having the right parts in front of you. And luckily we do a lot of both those. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes during this workshop going over some paper circuits information, doing a little slideshow presentation, not very much. Then we're going to start making some example projects for you with our overhead camera and walking you through how those go together and how you can make them and how you can possibly use those both at home or in a classroom setting. So thank you, Pete, for doing the air conditioning. That'll kick off in a second. And let's go over to our slideshow. Ta-da! Pete, do we have the buttons? We do. We have a little button system here to let Pete know when to switch slides. Haven't used this in a while. There we go. Oh, thanks, Pete. So Brown Dog Gadgets, it's us. Thanks, Pete. We're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We love being in Milwaukee. We do a lot of simple make and take activities with kids and adults and educators. Just fun, basically arts and crafts science. Things that you might already be doing anyway in your home or classroom, but with a science bend to them, usually adding electronics, things that light up, things that move. Also works really well for distance learning. We do a lot of other fun things with solar power, Lego, and microbit, but we're pretty much well known for our make and take activities. If you're a social media person, please follow us at some of these fun social media spots. We post a lot of stuff on Twitter. Usually it's check out these cool projects we're doing. That's typically what we post on Twitter. We made this cool thing. Here's a link to how you can do it if you want. That's typically what we do the most of is that we also stick a lot of videos on YouTube as well, which you might be watching this on YouTube right now. But you can always find us under Brown Dog Gadgets. So paper circuits. As I mentioned before, paper circuits are almost always conductive tape-based projects. Although, Pete, there are some fun, he knows this, fun conductive inks out there as well, which you can use, although those are hit or miss depending on your project. I like conductive inks, but it's the right tool for the right project, and tape just makes things really, really, really easy. Typically, they involve one LED. You could use any number of LEDs. We have used dozens before on activities. It just depends on how much tape and LEDs you want to use. STEM and STEAM focused. Usually people think of these as a younger age level project, elementary level as a my first circuitry activity, but we have done adult level programming projects galore with tape on paper. It's really easy to level up and down for learning environments. But one of the big hallmark features of paper circuits are the low cost of them, which is why educators just tend to love them, because conductive tape, batteries, and LEDs are very inexpensive, which means they make for a great make and take project. The kid's going to make a fun thing like a card, and they get taken home with them because nobody wants to disassemble your art project every time you're done making it. But paper circuits are just very versatile and inexpensive. And there's an example of very simple paper circuits. We're using a binder clip as a switch in this picture. Isn't that fancy, Pete?
Amazing.
It's amazing. We also use things called origami circuits, which is just our word for three-dimensional circuitry projects. This would be using, say, LEDs and specifically vibrating motors to make a three-dimensional shape move around. It's usually how we level things up for paper circuits activities. Making a three-dimensional shape is a more difficult task for a child or an adult to do. So a lot of the difficulty increase isn't so much the electronics, but the physical crafting involved, which is a very sly way of not making it any more difficult on the electronic side, but by making the project feel more age appropriate. I always joke that it's not the electronics that increases with the difficulty scaling, it's the crafting, because we've had a couple of our staff members and people we work with do some crazy over the top crafting activities. Electronics is simple. Electronics was the easy part. The crafting is what took them a day and a half to build. We have a really big, gigantic light up a robot costume that Natasha, one of our contractors out of New Jersey, she made for us. It is fantastic looking. Electronics is all dead simple. It just took her forever to make this huge over the top cardboard Halloween costume. But again, these things are also can be very low cost as well. Motors typically cost more because they're motors, but it does add a nicer twist to things, having a three-dimensional object. So origami circuits, that's how we do things. And again, if you have questions, any questions or comments when we're talking about this, please throw them in the chat window because Pete will answer them with a link. And we'll also be throwing links up there as we talk about things and projects and as we go along here. But also, quick question, we're happy to literally chat with you as we're doing this. Always happy to have some interaction on these workshops. Make sure you're not all asleep. So paper circuits history, I always like to go over how this all started. The maker movement kind of kicked this out as a big go-to activity, maybe like 2010, 2008. Yeah. It's been like 14, 15 years. It really kind of came about when people realized you use copper foil tape, which is a very common crafting tool, a very common thing you can buy, along with LEDs, which were becoming super cheap and easy to get with batteries. It's one of those things like, oh, we have these parts in front of us. Let's do some of this as a easy classroom activity or adding some art to crafts we're already doing. But the problem was using copper foil, which is a pain the keister to use. Oh, look at that. Pete, what does this wonderful thing do?
No copper tape.
Is it animated, Pete?
There's this one.
Oh, there's the one. Oh, copper foil is a difficult material to work with. That's why we use a nylon tape in our kits. It's much stronger. Not get too much into it. It was the thing they had available at the time. We actually in the past sold kits with copper foil because that was the only thing available. But it was one of those nice, easy beginning maker projects that really took off that 12, 14 years ago. And there's just heaps and heaps and heaps of resources out there for paper circuits activities. And they usually are, just from a wide variety of sources, tons of videos and other resources from us included to do that. But we like to think origami circuits, the three-dimensional, the higher level projects has been one of those things that's taken off in the past 4 or 5 years with paper circuits, as I guess that maker crowd or that first wave of educators has used it long enough that what else can we do with it? We've gotten bored doing the same greeting card for the past 5 years. What else can we do? Which is a natural progression of things. There we go. So here's some examples of some origami circuit stuff. The one in the top right corner, that's ours. That is a fake robot vacuum, which I have, I think, one or maybe even that one right here. It's one of the activities we have with a vibrating motor. But again, it's the crafting that gets more difficult with these as you scale things up. And a couple other examples of people using some very simple shapes to make things. If you're into origami in general, the art of paper folding, you can just easily add conductive tape and batteries and LEDs to these kind of projects. A good three-dimensional paper craft is always fun. I like themed projects. This is one of my favorite ones. We've been working on something very, very similar. It's just a random graphic we grabbed off of Google image search a while back. But you can make some very cool themed things with paper circuits, such as making a little city. One of my favorite activities to have teachers do is to make a shoebox house and have the kids wire it with conductive tape. So you're actually bringing in that very nice real world connection between the world that they're in, the room they're in, and the activity they're doing, because three-dimensional shapes are literally all around us, and it's fun and easy to do. Wiring the home is fun. We also do a fun thing called solar bugs, which is using solar panels, some conductive tape, and a vibrating motor to make a vibrating paper craft. Again, it's paper circuits, just adding a solar panel with a vibrating motor as opposed to a battery. But themed activities are always fun to do. Holiday stuff is also another one to do. Okay, good comment. See, some people are commenting already. Thank you, Anne, for commenting. But yeah, especially holiday themed things. We kind of joke the Q4, the last chunk of the year. That's all the light up holidays are. Your Halloweens, your Thanksgivings, your winter holidays. There's just tons of things to light up. And it's really easy to add lights to a project for those holidays. You're doing any sort of crafting at your home or in your classroom. So here's some examples of some different things we've done as well for themed activities. We have done some fun, like we have a bunch of Pac-Man themed templates we put out. We do a fun thing called our Robot Buddies. That's that picture on the left there, which is just basically a paper doll that you can make light up. We always kind of have fun things. I think we did a cowboy, didn't we, Pete? I always forget the cowboys on there, and also the bearded Canadian, I call it, is the.
I think that's a sheriff.
Well, there's that, but there's the one cut out below with the beard.
Oh, yeah, no, yes.
They got the sheriff, and they have like the Canadian, or the Minnesotan. I don't know. Viking. But anyway, so lesson plans with if you're doing this as a lesson plan activity, as a learning tool, not just a fun craft tool. A lot of the best present paper circuits are you can focus on trial and error with the students. They can do all the learning, all the building themselves, which is the really nice aspect about it, because when it comes down to it, the tape is extremely inexpensive. So if they mess up, take off the battery, take off the LED, and have them try again. So letting them lead the lesson or lead the crafting with very little teacher involvement or oversight, because they can self-correct, they can try things out. It's very nice. It's a student-led activity, which is what I always like as an educator, that the kids are doing all the work themselves, or almost all the work, so they can feel that confidence, and the learning comes to them naturally. It's also very high interest for them as well, because when it comes down to it, it's tape on paper. And for most kids, they've done enough tape and paper by the time they hit that age 10 and up, that you can when I had my middle school classroom, I was kind of very flippant about it. I'd be like, well, who here can use tape? And, raise your hand. Okay, great. Who here can cut paper? And kids would roll their eyes and raise their hand, like, great. Then this should be no problem. No one should complain about this at all for me, because it's just all stuff they've done before with an LED and a battery. So it's really, really easy for the kids to just get involved in then doing all that work themselves. So we also do a thing called advanced paper circuits. If you want to work with that middle school, high school level, or adult level activity, again, we mentioned you could very easily level things up. Here's an example that Pete made. He just had a piece of a random piece of acrylic he had in the office. Yeah. And he just took an integrated circuit we had that had been programmed, and then just added LEDs and batteries, and doing that on a piece of acrylic for, I guess, flare. That looked really cool, right, Pete? I think Pete used the acrylic because it looked nice. You see through it. It's very cute, Pete. I actually, I think, literally it's sitting over here on the table still. It's been there for a while. But doing more advanced projects is easy, and we try to have some different activities for that, such as I like doing audio projects. So one of the things that we have and we've done is, like the picture here, is we made a speaker. We literally made a DIY speaker using a iPod, or if a cheap stereo receiver. You can get one from Goodwill for $5 these days. Some magnets and conductive tape on a piece of plastic. This is a full lesson we have written up on our website. But in addition to stuff like that, bringing in transistors, resistors, simple sensors into the mix, or even going as far as using microbit or Arduino, so programming projects on paper, is a really easy way to make quote unquote real projects. I say that because some kids don't think paper circuits are real circuits. But being able to bring in some of those older, more advanced activities alongside paper circuits gives that flexibility that paper circuits add, such as using, say, a microbit or Arduino with paper, as opposed to soldering or a breadboard, adds a lot of flexibility to those activities. And you get the simplicity, the inexpensiveness, and the easy to troubleshoot nature of it, which is, as an educator, something I love. It's easier for me to troubleshoot, then I can quickly do that with a group of kids and then move on to the next group if they need help. Troubleshooting a classroom full of kids can just be such a logistical mess if everyone's having a problem. But doing it on paper helps just move things along very easily for the kids and lowers the risk of there being issues. And again, the learning objectives are the same activities, same circuits are going, making buttons, switches, making things light up, making things move, but on paper from Arduino. It's just a really nice flexible aspect of it. And that's why we love doing paper circuits, for the flexibility of it. Simple sensors, we use light detecting resistors and transistors because they are dead cheap. Your standard transistor is like 10 cents these days. A light detecting resistor is like 10 cents. So we have a couple different lessons and activities on our website. We're not going to go over those today as a build project, but those are full write-ups we have on our website if people want to do those, of making like a dark detecting circuit using a light detecting resistor. It's a light detecting resistor, a transistor, and a resistor with an LED. It's like 4 parts in a battery and then tape. Pretty simple, but you're making an interactive circuitry project more appropriate for that 8th grade through high school level crowd. That's entirely done on paper and literally is an outdoor garden light. The garden lights you see in everyone's yards, that's how they work, in a very similar circuit to that, just on a little cheap circuit board made in China. Can also bring in conductive dough and paint, also works well. Those are things available from a lot of different companies. SquishyCircuits.com has great conductive dough. CircuitScribe has really nice conductive ink pens, but those can also work well as simple sensors as well to interact with. Also, graphite pencils, Pete, can work very well. It makes a nice variable resistor, graphite. Yeah. I know, it's good times with graphite. And then, oh, some simple, I always forget what's on this last slide, I always forget. Microbit is really great using Arduino or an Arduino Nano. Simple integrated circuits, if you're into these things, these are very common things to get, very inexpensive to get for like a 555 timer. Pete, you know, the 555 timer was the first integrated circuit ever made.
Correct.
It was. What was it used for, Pete?
The space mission to the moon. I don't know.
It was a guided missiles.
There you go.
Used to cost like $10,000 per chip. You can get them now for like 50 cents. Yeah. Fun fact. It's a fun little timer circuit. Do we have any more slides? Oh, microbits. There we go. This is an example of using a microbit or an Arduino to do paper circuits activities. This is a game we made. It's a little rhythm game, but just how you can easily connect things to a paper environment from those setups. I just highly recommend doing that if you have those available to you or have interest in them, just because it beats alligator clips and wires everywhere, and it makes things a little more visually oriented for kids to see how the circuit flows together as opposed to, say, a breadboard. But a microbit's just great because it has a lot of built-in sensors, such as a temperature sensor, accelerometer, magnometer. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, there's a microphone on the new one. Josh, another Josh. Josh, I will repeat those options. So conductive dough, the best conductive dough out there is from squishycircuits.com. If you're an educator and want to get a discount, call Matthew at Squishy Circuits. He's the owner. He's a good fellow up in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota. Their dough is very nice. You can also make your own if you search for it. I believe he has the recipe on that website as well if you want to make your own dough. I did that in my classroom. It's a lot of stirring motion in a pot. Thank you, Pete, for those links. So Squishy Circuits is a great material. He also has non-conductive dough, which I believe is just modeling clay. Insulating dough. See on the website. Yeah, actually, don't make the insulating dough. It's sugar-based. It is a sticky mess. That's an educator tip. Don't make the sugar dough. It molds over very quickly. Or if you do use it, stick it in the fridge after being used, because your little kid hands that are all dirty touch it. It molds over within. So I'm opening up my desk, the bag, and just like, oh, this full of mold, you're gone. A little bleach in the bag, and yay. Now for conductive ink pens, there are 2 types of pens out there that you can get. One, there's circuitscribe.com. They have a silver-based like ballpoint gel pen, which is fantastic. However, the downside of their pen is that you have to then connect the parts to it, which I would recommend using conductive tape to tape down those things. They have some very nice components that are magnet based to snap the parts down on top of the ink. It's just those are a little expensive, but you can tape things down. And then also there's a company called Bare, B-A-R-E, Bare Conductive Paint. They're out of the UK. It's a graphite based kind of like puffy paint. I'm making hand motions to paint. That's really nice. It's water soluble, but it's a much more poor conductor because it's graphite based, but you can easily like stick a part into it, let it dry. Those work really well actually as like variable resistors because it's graphite based. The longer a line you make of it, the higher resistance goes across it. We have a couple of older project guides on our website using it as a variable resistor. But I like the idea of conductive inks. It's just they work in very specific situations. And that's somebody who used to sell those in some of our kits. You have to have very specific situations. We like tape because the tape, it just works on anything. I can put tape on my shirt right now and make a circuit and peel it off when I'm done, on the wall, on the computer monitor, on Pete, on my poor dog, who's in my office whining doors away. It peels off when it's done, especially the nylon tape we're using just comes off in a peel. And it just works. But those are the options for other conductive materials out there. Am I missing any conductive materials? I guess there's like conductive thread, which is essentially just the same as our nylon tape, just thread version. You get sheets of conductive like fabric. Those are kind of nice, but again, it's very similar to like the woven nylon conductive tape we use. Oh yeah, we have conductive Velcro. Actually, I'll show some of that later, but we're putting that in some of our kits. You get conductive hook and loop, Pete. It's not conductive Velcro. Velcro is a brand name. Conductive hook and loop fastener, which is fun, but also kind of weirdly expensive. I've actually seen conductive zipper before.
Okay.
Some weird websites out there that have tons of different conductive materials, but mostly used for EMF shielding and other conspiracy theory-esque shieldings. Really cool materials, just odd applications, but great. But yeah, what comes down to it, conductive dough is really easy to make yourself. Use that. Conductive inks, they have their ups and downs, but if you have a good project for it, those are the two companies we recommend. I think those are only two people that really like dominate the market for conductive ink. There's actually another conductive ink company out of Japan. They make it's like a Sharpie, but it only works on photo paper. Whereas the Circuit Scribe, it's literally a gel pen, your standard ballpoint gel pen, which works on any paper really well and has very, 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 very low resistance. It's good stuff. But anywho, do we have more slides left, Pete?
Let's see.
Oh, let's make a project. This is the last slide. It says, let's make a project. So, okay. Do we have a picture of kittens at the end? Sometimes I throw pictures of kittens. No, not this slideshow. Great. Now we're here. Let's make a project. So, excellent. I know some of you might have materials in front of you. If you do, please follow along. Otherwise, these are all activities we have documented on our websites with step-by-step guides, and most of them have a video involved with them as well. So if you say want to come back and do this stuff later, you totally can. Oh, look at that, browndoggadgets.com. Doo-doo. Try to document all of our stuff very well so that educators or students can use them, pardon me, at their leisure. So here is a name tag. This is one of the activities we end up doing now at teaching conferences and workshops. A very simple name tag, because then I get to know whose name, who am I talking to? There's a little name tag on them. And this is a very easy activity, very fun one to do with kids as a getting to know you activity or STEM day event, because they can wear them when they're done. And I always find that kids love to wear stuff that they've made. I think most of us do. If you make something, make a cool shirt, you want to wear it, show it off. Just to make sure it's put in your closet, you make it to show off. And so this is a cool thing. This one's battery is a little dying on me, but we're going to make one that actually isn't using a dead battery. And this is a great name tag activity. So on our website, we have a bunch of different, you can print off a colored one or a black and white one, have the kids color. If you do have people who are smart with design work, you take our template and put some extra cool things on there. We always try to class them up for teaching conferences by doing a little like branding on there, usually like in DC, or we're going to Pittsburgh this next weekend. So a little Pittsburgh skyline on the top of our thing, because Pittsburgh has a skyline. But these are on our website with directions. So I'm going to use this one right here and flip it over. And we have a little bit of mini directions on here. We also have some big directions, and Pete's working on a video right now for that as well. And we're going to need the following items. We're going to need for this activity, let's go with a red LED. Yep. Red LED, going to need some conductive tape. Ta-da, a little tape holder here I made. we're going to need a battery, such as a CR2032 coin cell battery. Now, this is, people often ask us, Josh, aren't coin cell batteries dangerous? And I always tell them, yes, they are if you swallow them. It's true. These coin cell batteries can be very dangerous if you swallow them, which is why we say ages 10 and up. If you are working with a child at your kitchen table that is younger than that, that is something that you can most certainly do. But for a classroom setting with a bunch of people, you really need to be careful with this. You know your students and your children better than anybody else. So definitely be aware of that. And you also need a pair of scissors because you got to cut stuff. Now, Josh, thank you, Josh. Are shirts washable if you need circuits on them? All right, so that's a very good question. So we actually have some conductive sewing kits we sell. I'm pretty sure Schiller also carries those. We also do things with conductive tape on fabric as well, which we'll do later. So the washable aspect of using conductive thread and sewing parts on, because the parts we use for sewing are actually little circuit boards. There's little circuit boards on here for sewing, basically a button. You hand wash those. For things that use conductive tape, I call them short-term circuits or like short-term wearables, because that conductive tape will not handle a washing. So if I was to say, make my shirt light up right now with this conductive tape and LED and a battery, I would want to just take it off and make it again later. So that's the only downside to doing wearable stuff. That's why a lot of what we do for wearables, we stick to either short-term holiday things like making an ugly holiday sweater or things like this that don't need to be washed. So we'll get into that in a bit later, but that's a good question. Conductive sewing things, you can hand wash them and let them air dry. Has been the thing I've always heard about that one. I guess I don't think we ever washed any of our conductive sewn shirts before, because we always, when we wear them for events, we wear a shirt underneath them. But we haven't worn them for a bit because conductive sewing is a pain in the keister. That's why we use tape instead. Most people don't know how to sew. I'm not a great sewer, and I have a merit badge to show off for that from years ago. Now, typically when we do this, I highly recommend using a safety pin to poke holes in the paper, and using very thick paper. In general, when doing paper circuits activities, a little pro tip here: if you can, at your home or at your school, print things off or photocopy things off with a thicker paper. The higher the cardstock, the better. I think we use 100-pound cardstock on all of our printing that we do in-house for all of our stuff. This is printed on that same paper, but just parts it doesn't flop around then. Using like regular copy paper, like batteries and LEDs will make things flop around. It gets awkward and annoying. Using thicker is better. We're doing this for a large group activity. You can get little peel and stick safety pins for the back, but if you just use a safety pin on the thicker paper to poke through the holes, that makes a huge difference for the LED legs. Thinner paper, they'll poke right through on their own copy paper, not a problem. But in general, if you can, use thicker paper, then just safety pin push holes through for stuff. It does save a lot of time and effort. I think about 40-pound cardstock goes through printers, like standard photocopiers, without too much of a problem. Heavier than that, but the heavier you can use, the better. Anyway, so to make this name tag, we got to take our LED. Now, LEDs, Pete, they have two legs. What do those two legs mean?
Well,
look at that. It's a fun infographic. So when I do this with kids, I always teach them a couple of very subtle learning points, such as the long leg on the LED is positive and the short leg is negative. We're going positive to positive for the battery and negative to negative to the battery. So it actually says in the back of this card, short leg, long leg. So I'm going to poke these through. Eye-hand coordination is not my best today, Pete. Make sure I got my short leg, I got my long leg. Ta-da. Let me just bend them down. That's part of LEDs. These legs can be bent a decent number of times before they fall off. If you bend back and forth enough, like an old coat hanger, it'll eventually break. But bending it there, you're good to go. And then we're just going to lay tape down. We're going to first start out with this long line, which is labeled A. They're labeled. And we're just going to drop it down. And I'm kind of measure out by eye here. So I need about this length of tape. The cool thing about our nylon conductive tape is it's conductive on top and bottom. So for instance, you make a piece of tape that's too short, no biggie, overlap and keep going. But also you can just tape down the parts, just put your tape over the leg of your LED. As long as you give it a good little press, like here. Oh, so it's the official word for like pressing down on this. Andy,
It's
it's
sort of like you're burnishing it.
burnishing. There we go. It's a B word. Burnishing. So just do that. Great. We have one piece down and our battery's going to sit on top here eventually. Now we're just going to go 1, 2, 3. Now you can do it a couple different ways. Having some amazing teacher folding skills from years ago, I like to make one long piece of tape and do right angle folds, which you can totally do. Pete, on the other hand, is a big fan of just overlapping. So I'm going to do the Pete approach. So I'm going to measure out here a little piece like so. I recommend it for kids as well. But the overlapping the tape, not all tapes do this. Copper foil tape is one of the big issues. It just was not conductive on the bottom when it comes to copper foil. And so if you broke your tape halfway across, which happened a lot with copper foil, it starts all over again, which is a major confidence killer for kids. It's just frustrating. And the goal for paper circuits is to build confidence, build enthusiasm, and let kids know that, yes, you can do these things on your own without too much adult help or entirely on their own. And I always like when I can build up confidence in kids that they can do the work themselves. They can be the master of their learning. There you go. Go push down. Look at that. 1, 2. Ta-da. Now, something else we can do cool with nylon conductive tape is we can make a tape loop, which I'm going to do here. Make a little loop of tape to stick my battery down because it's conductive on top and bottom. So I'm just taking a little piece of tape right here. There we go. I'm going to loop it onto itself so it's sticky side out all around. Like so. I'm going to stick that on the bottom of my battery, just in this middle section. We don't want to go on the outsides, but just in the middle. Okay. I'm going to stick it down on top of tape line A right here. And now I've got a solid connection on the negative side of the battery to the short leg, which is our negative leg of our LED. And now something I have to do is measure out one little extra piece of tape here to do. And we are good to go for this light up name tag. We do this all the time with adults at teaching conferences or library conferences because it's a fun thing to have them make. It doesn't take too long. Ta-da.
You can write your name on it.
I could if I wanted to be. Actually, writing your name on it before you put the electronics on is actually really helpful, or just a big Sharpie. But that's pretty simple. And then if you want to say turn it off, you can just peel this guy backwards. Now it's off. And if, oh no, the tape has lost its stickiness, no big deal. Add another piece of tape on. Or if you need to replace the battery, just peel off. Because the tape is pretty strong and can get peeled off that way.
Well, how long will that battery last?
Oh, Pete, that's a very common question. How long will it last? Now, days. So, I mean, these LEDs are LEDs specifically. We have little built-in resistors on their head, which we do to make life easier for people. About 6 milliamp, I want to say, when I tested one out ages ago. And these batteries tend to last quite a while off that draw. I mean, we've had these sitting in a car or on a shelf, and like weeks later, if we turn the lights off, like they're still dimly going, like just a little bit, but they'll last 3-4 days at a full peak brightness. If you use the color changing LEDs, which is one of the LED types we have, those tend to lose out a bit faster. Blue, white, and color changing LEDs have a higher voltage threshold, so they need a higher voltage, whereas green or red have a lower voltage threshold, meaning as the battery power drops, their voltage also drops, like a remote control car getting slower and slower as the battery dies. The blue and white and color changing, since it has multiple colors in it, they get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, whereas like red and green will just last longer because as that power drops, there's still plenty to make it go at full brightness. I think red and green are like 2.2 or 2.3 volts, whereas white and blue want to be over 3, like 3 to 3.5 in there to kind of be at peak brightness. But anyway, fun extra factoids for everybody because I'm full of those. And now somebody might be asking, Josh, where do you get this swanky tape holder you got right here? That seems pretty cool. Like all the kids would want to hang out with this. Well, kind person out there thinking that. It's a 3D printed tape holder. If you want, we have this size and also a smaller size for smaller rolls of tape on our website. If you have a 3D printer available, you can just print one off or many off to your heart's content. They also work perfectly fine with standard off-the-shelf conductive tape as well. It's a 3-inch core on this, which is like the standard for conductive tape, a 3-inch diameter inner core. So pretty much most off-the-shelf conductive tape rolls will work just fine. Although our tape is just, it's the bee's knees, right, Pete?
If bees have knees, yes.
If bees had knees, they would be cool. But we do this so it doesn't come unravel. I know it's a big issue with conductive tape. Once you kind of start undoing it because there's a wax paper backing, it just kind of like unravels like a slinky that's lost its will to live. Oh no! Just ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. This is a very handy thing to print off of a 3D printer, a useful tool. But hey, Pete, would you mind throwing up a link to that off our website?
I can do that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's just a free 3D printable file we have on our website. So please use it if you are a 3D printing person or have one available to you or have access to one. It's a pretty quick print. I think there's like an hour and a half to print out the big version. The small one takes a little bit less time, obviously. There's a link. Thank you, Pete. But definitely recommend this so your tape doesn't go everywhere. Works a lot better than some of the other options people have tried out there, but it just keeps it nice and tight. So next thing we're going to do, because we have, oh good, it's only 36 after. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to show you a really cool activity you can do with a clothespin to show you the versatility of conductive tape and how weird you can do projects with. This is a standard clothespin. It's a random actually clothespin off Amazon. We get these a lot for some of the summer camps we work with to make specifically this project. I'm going to get a battery out because I need a battery to show this off. This is a battery tester. And here we go. So here's a battery. I don't know if it's got power or not. Pete, can you tell? I don't know. Well, we can clip it right in here. Ta-da. It looks like it's got power in it, Pete. We can use this battery for other things. That is pretty superb. Now, this is just a LED, a clothespin, and then some conductive tape on here. And our tape being very strong, the nylon tape, you can do this copper foil. You can easily do that. And all we're doing is going a line of tape from here to your LED leg, and then down and around back to the other side. So just really 2 pieces of tape to tape down an LED. And so we typically use red. You can use red or green would work well because they have the lowest voltage threshold. So they'll light up with even small amounts. You want to get really fancy, you could use a blinking red LED like this guy right here. We have some of these in our kits as well. This little 5mm LED. So it just blinks. Yay. This is a 5mm LED. It is 5mm in diameter. This is a 10mm LED. It is 10mm in diameter. Hey, Pete, how wide is a 3mm LED?
I think it's around 3mm.
3 millimeters. Don't, if you're buying random parts online, please never buy a 3mm LED for a classroom project. They are small and they're not much cheaper. 5mm is kind of like the standard size. We like using the 10mm because they're large. They're easy to manipulate. The legs are all the same length on these. Their cost is nearly identical. But it's way more interesting having the big LEDs. It's also better for small fingers to manipulate, having a larger thing to grab onto. Also easier to find when they fall on the ground as they roll off the table. So we're going to use a green LED because that's what's available to me on the side here without opening another bag. We haven't done a green one before, Pete. I know it's going to be a fancy time tonight. So we have to first start. This is, by the way, another project we have documented on our website. Pete, would you link to our wonderful clothespin project? Thanks, Pete. And so we're going to just, again, positive and negative is a big thing on this one. I'm going to have the positive over here and the negative this way. This way, when the battery is put in right side up, and if you did it backwards, you just turn the battery upside down. No biggie. And we're gonna have it straddle this piece of metal right here is the big one, because this is conductive, being metal, and we can straddle it very well. So I'm gonna take the positive leg here. I'm gonna then fold this leg in half because I don't have a whole lot of room on that side to work with. It's a little smaller than probably wanted to go, but it's good enough. There we go. I think this one I have a little bit longer. And then the other leg can just be whatever. And we just straddle it right here. It's naturally kind of springy and it doesn't hit it. Then it's got to drop a little bit of tape on here. And again, this is a weird shape and the tape does well on weird shapes. I'm just going to make life easy for myself and just cut a longer piece of tape and work from there. Luckily, if it's too short, I can always overlap. Use my NPR voice. Pete, today we're going to overlap some tape. Now, I love reading. I will listen to NPR. Now, is that only old Saturday Night Live sketches? All right, well, very good. I'm just going to come around and like, about that length. I have had some educators as well glue down, like hot glue down. Not too long. Their LED ahead of time. You don't need to, especially for adults. So people have asked, Josh, thank you, Josh, for asking very good questions today. Josh, yes, you can use different size batteries. There are a bunch of different coin cell batteries for projects out there, or using AA or AAAs. The key for pretty much LED projects in general, 3 volts, which these batteries are 3 volts. That's very common. There's a bunch of different types of 3 volts. The CR2032 is the go-to common size small battery. And these are nice for 2 to 3 LEDs typically is what we recommend. If you want to say use a larger amount of LEDs and light up more things, 2 AAA batteries, that also gives you 3 volts, or 2 AA batteries gives you 3 volts. You can get little battery holders, just strip the ends, tape them down, life is good. You get battery packs with little on and off switches that cost a little bit more. Also very handy to have for projects. We use a lot for trade show demos, so we can turn things on and off at night. But 3 volts is the key there. 3 volts is what most LEDs are happy with, even without resistors involved. 3 volts gets pretty much any small vibrating motor, small hobby motor going just fine. But the key for all this is literally just 3 volts. So if you find batteries that are 3 volts, you're good. More than that, you want to add in some resistors or other things to it. Otherwise, you'll have LEDs that'll just, they won't explode. They're not harmful.
Wait, Josh, don't you need a resistor with that LED? Okay.
And typically in general, people always get on our case about this, like, whereas there's no resistor. We have, first off, we have resistors built into our LEDs. It's just a little something we do at the factory level, which is why our LEDs are a little different from other people's LEDs. This way, the big thing is you make a parallel circuit with a blue and a red, and there's no resistors involved. The red will light up, the blue won't, because the red is an easier avenue to go through for electricity. Electricity takes the path of least resistance, and least resistance is always through like a red or a green compared to a white or a blue. Using all the same color, no big deal. But if you do a parallel circuit with a blue and a green, or blue and a red, or white and a whatever, the other one will light up, which you need a resistor to make the playing field level, which is why we have them built into the head of our LEDs from the factory, so that nobody ever has to worry about that. Because your average 4th grade teacher or parent at home making a cool light-up greeting card doesn't know and shouldn't care, and that's another layer of effort. Now you can add them in if you want. It's not going to hurt anything. No, there we go. Just got to press these down. There we go. Ta-da. But 3 volts is the key to do stuff. Actually, our LEDs, because our LEDs have built-in resistors, they can handle up to 5 volts. We use the same LEDs for our Lego-based circuitry kits, which deal with 3 to 5 volts of power. Literally the same. It's the same LED from the same factory, just one's on a little circuit board. But in general, your off-the-shelf LED like this is just an off-the-shelf LED. 3 volts, it's happy. More than that, it'll burn out, or the lifespan will be greatly, greatly reduced. If you go up to 9 volts, for instance, take a 9-volt battery to this guy.
Yes.
That's bad. Every now and then someone's like, hey, a kid took a 9 volt or something, like that's a bad thing. That is way too much voltage. Usually it's, if you're lucky, like most of the time it'll sizzle out. Otherwise, once years ago, this was years ago, once I hooked up something wrong, 9 volts directly to a little green LED, and it went, just kind of popped. Yeah, I've never had that. Yeah, me either. Something we're thinking. Why did you explode? But anywho, 3 volts. I totally forgot. So by the way, on our website, browndoggadgets.com, we have a really great Getting Started with Paper Circuits ebook, which I totally should have pitched earlier, which has a bunch of great step-by-step guides. We just put it out like a month or so ago. I haven't done a live stream since we put it out, but it's a very, very nice step-by-step learning how to do paper circuits activities as a free PDF download off of our website with a great accompanying video where Natasha walks you through how to make buttons and switches and other fun things with paper circuits. I feel silly for totally forgetting that, but there's a link to that. We don't do a monthly subscription because it's just silly. For us as a business model to do that, what we do is here, buy one of our kits. You have enough stuff in here for like 10 projects, and then just make the things you want to make, because we have a ton of projects documented on our website, or like the ebook, make the different things in there, learn how to do these different steps, make a cool thing or two. And we're constantly kicking out new projects and activities. So our subscription basically is follow us on Twitter and then make the cool things we kick out every month with the parts you have, because there's just so much you can do with paper circuits or wearable things. It just seems silly to hamstring people into like a subscription. We thought about doing that years ago, but like, just buy a $25 kit once and make like 10 things with it over the course of a year or other things. And it's much easier than us trying to get subscription money from people every month. It just seems, for us specifically, seemed like a silly approach as a business model goes. Plus, we're nice people. We just rather put our resources out there. But yes, on our website, we have the Getting Started with Paper Circuits ebooks. We have several other themed ebooks we're kicking out throughout the year here for different holiday themed things. There's a Valentine's one up, I believe. There's a Minecraft inspired, more difficult 3-dimensional shapes that light up, which are fun. So let me grab a couple other things here, so I'm just going to talk about that all day long. But anyway, this is a fun one to do as a weird shape activity. Put this with the other ones. I got a little line of them up here from different workshops I've done. Just keep growing more. I like doing, one of the fun things to do are paper crafts. Not so much like cards are fine. Cards are easy. Cards are great. There's nothing much to it. It's an LED and a battery. It's really just exactly like the name tag. This is a nice little, the cake is a lie, but my love for you is not. Pete, that's very sweet. It's a Pete project. It's a very, very sweet. I like when people do some little more hands-on crafting again to make things a little more age appropriate. This is a dinosaur paper craft. It is one LED, that's a battery and conductive tape. It's also front and back. And we have some of these craftings that have like layers of paper. But being able to make something that lights up, no, my battery's a little dead on this guy, but that is a fun craft. And we have a bunch of these different crafts that we put on our website. Again, free downloads, or anyone can use anytime. I'm going to make this guy. You want to make I didn't grab the fish. We got fish, we got dinosaurs, we've got squids, we've got other fun things, holiday stuff. But we just like kicking these out. And it's just, yeah, if you get a kit from us, you can make a bunch of different things. But the dinosaur is a fun one to do. I like this one. Oh, thanks, Pete, for the T-Rex one. That is a nice printable template on that one. We also have printable templates for these, and this folds over. I like when I just don't have one here. A little binder. Oh, there you do. There's my little binder clip. I know I had one around here somewhere. So I like the T-Rex. I have a 4-year-old who loves dinosaurs. You do this, a binder clip to keep it shut down, or you can use a tape loop. The little binder clip becomes little tiny T-Rex arms. I think it's just adorable, like a little T-Rex arms. It's really cute. Or you can just use a tape loop to tape loop this down and then make your own T-Rex arms. But I like the binder clip as my little T-Rex arms on that one. This is kind of adorable. So the last thing we're going to do here in the last 10 minutes is showing you how to do wearable projects with the paper circuits material, because it doesn't take much effort to make a wearable circuit using tape. And we actually have a fun Getting Started with Wearable Circuits ebook that we also put out, which I'm sure Pete will throw up a link to it at some point as we're talking about this, which is just making a circuit on fabric with just felt and tape. It's basically no more difficult than doing paper circuits, but you get a nice soft circuitry. So wearable electronics, e-textiles, or soft circuitry as they're called, typically uses conductive thread and then specialized components like this LED here on a little circuit board. So there's a nice hard surface to sew through, basically fancy buttons that light up, which you totally can do. We sell a kit. It's also more expensive than just doing it on fabric with tape and an LED. When it comes down to it, an LED is an LED is an LED. And this is a much more younger age level appropriate activity. It takes much less time and effort and kids with needles and thread, which is more difficult than you expect. And we can do weird things with it. Andy, our curriculum writer, took a mold, a cheap silicone mold off Amazon for just gems, a gem mold he found. He used hot glue from a hot glue gun with an LED to get them embedded in here. And then they light up really, really well as a very simple activity. So now we have gems to throw onto our wearable circuits with just hot glue. I think each of these is about a stick of hot glue though, like a 6-inch. It used a lot more hot glue than you'd expect. That's a very easy way of, again, doing something more fun, especially on a tabletop kitchen level. But for classroom use, making this project here is just involves some felt, an LED, a battery, and some conductive tape, which is identical to what we're doing in the past. You do this also the same thing with paper, but I like felt because it makes the project have a different kinesthetic, a different visual, different feel. It activates a different chunk of your brain than doing it on paper, because paper, it's just weird. Paper crafts and fabric just occupy two very different chunks of your brain. And when we show people this, especially educators, like, oh yeah, it's just way different. It's a different look in their eyes than doing something on paper. It has a much higher perceived value by the kids because it's fabric based. And this is just stiff felt. Get the stiffer the felt, the better. Again, just to help the components stay on and not flop all over the place. But it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to make one here today with the time we have left. Oh, also in this one, we're using conductive hook and loop, which is this stuff right here. See if my LEDs will light up. These are getting a little dead. And it's also very bright with 4 lights on it. Pardon me. Itchy scalp. But you don't have to use conductive Velcro, sorry, hook and loop on this. This is something we put in one of our upcoming wearable circuitry kit, which is very similar to paper circuits, just has a few extra things in it. You can just use tape loops or a safety pin to hold them together as well. But conductive hook and loop is kind of fun. I'll put this guy to the side. And we're going to do this. I'm going to cut myself a strip of, this is just very stiff felt. The stiffer, the better. Now, Pete, don't judge me for not cutting a straight line here.
I never do either. Why would a laser cut?
Pete likes using our in-house laser cutter to cut really fancy shapes out. You know what that is? Not too shabby. He'll cut stuff like this with our laser cutter on felt because don't add Wi-Fi to a cupcake is a company motto we have. Don't overcomplicate things. Some things don't need to be overcomplicated. But if you have a laser cutter around, cut your felt with a laser cutter or not. So I'm going to use this. Ooh, it just definitely takes a turn there on here. And just going to need 1 or 2 LEDs for this project. And we're going to start by taking some conductive tape like so. We're going to make a little layer right here of conductive tape. Actually, I'm going to start by doing this first. By the way, this is a guide on our website. I'm doing this from memory. So there's a nice guide. Thank you, Pete, for linking back to the ebook. So I'm going to start and do a line of conductive tape along here. Again, this is identical to how you do this on fabric or paper, which is nice about this. Again, I would not try this with copper foil. The nylon tape is very strong because it's nylon. My go-to nylon joke is it's good enough for parachutes. It's good enough for paper crafts. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a little overlapping lattice of tape right here in this area. We're just going to overlap several pieces to give us a big landing pad, so to speak. So we fold the fabric around to each other. It's a nice area for overlapping. And since our tape is conductive on top and bottom, if we just overlap a few pieces, we can make a nice big area. We've done this for all sorts of projects. It's a very simple way of giving you a nice big conductive area without having to buy thick conductive tape. We'll just do 3 of them right here. That's an easy thing to do. Other fun conductive materials, while I'm thinking about it, Josh had asked earlier about that. You can get ductwork tape, like like aluminum ductworking tape, this big rolls of silver tape. That's conductive on the top. It's actually really kind of cool to use for projects. You just run like nylon tape from, say, wherever else you're going over on the top of that. And since this is conductive on bottom too, it'll transfer over to that big piece of tape. So you could use, say you're making a big think we used it for a big keyboard once that we did, a musical keyboard. And we just ran tape from this to a microcontroller and just a couple big chunks of the silver tape. So we're going to do this, and then we are going to make this our negative spot. So what we're going to do is this. We are going to give ourselves a tape loop like we did before, because it's conductive on top and bottom. I'll stick that on the bottom of my battery like so, on top of here. Ta-da. And then we just have to go to our LED. So this is the negative coming from here, and this will be then the positive. So out and out, I'm going to put a little turn in my positive so I remember which one it is, because I always forget. And then just kind of go over that way. That seems appropriate, right, Pete?
Yes.
I'm gonna do a right angle turn because I like a good right angle turn. That's right, Pete. Going all right angle. Pete's thrilled, I can tell.
No pyramids for you, only cubes.
It's true. Now, I made a very long strip here, and oh no, I probably want some more tape. So I'm just going to overlap some tape. I did a very long piece of felt. I want to measure out felt appropriately for much smaller wrists. I'm just going to overlap this a bit. It's probably way too much, but who cares? Now, when it comes to felt-based projects, I like to put the tape down and then put your LED on top, then another piece on top of it, because the felt is much more flexible, much more surface area, the fuzziness of it, so to speak. Then paper, it's just nice to sandwich this between two pieces of tape, as opposed to doing that on paper where you don't really need to. I mean, if you want to get really, really like best practices, you could do that on paper as well. We find that typically is very rarely an issue. Just kind of press down a little bit or give it a little bit of a rub when you put it down. But then this is just great now. It's sandwiched between two pieces of tape. We're good. Now we're going to come out and down and around the back over here with our other piece of tape. Yeah, that's probably plenty. Yep. We'll do the same thing on this side too with the second piece of tape as well. So that's really pretty quick and easy to do for this. And then the big thing with wearable stuff is once you get past, honestly, the dull aspect of building the circuitry, you then have the kids decorate to their heart's content. I'm just gonna loop it around here. So actually, if I just come around with it like so, yep, a little light up, put another piece of tape right here. But the decorating aspect is that for the kids, because everyone can make the same circuit. Have 100 kids make 100 circuits, but what goes on top is different for each kid. Pete over there is really, really, really into cats.
Yeah.
Put a nice little kitty cat on there. Maybe use 2 red LEDs, little cat eyes.
Yeah.
Very much. I like a good squid, which is true. I do like a good cephalopod. That's the science teacher in me. So I might make a fun little squid or other underwater creature. Maybe I'll put a little flower or a heart or whatever holiday is nearest to your heart's content. You can do that. But the decorating aspect is what makes it unique then for each child or adult doing this activity. Now let's do 2. And that is what gives it that personal flair, because the more personal we can make it, more likely the kids or adults are to remember the interaction with it. I'm just going to very poorly overlap some tape on here as our time winds down. And it gets warmer and warmer in our studio as it is not air conditioned. So watch the temperature on our little gauge just go up, up, up. Then just overlaps, you come back around. Doesn't take much connection. You can use a safety pin, or you could do, sometimes I just do like a big tape loop right here. So I just tape loop it together. A safety pin probably would work better. Using the conductive hook and loop also works very well. Actually, the conductive hook and loop for this, either one hot glue down the sides, or I found that stapling also works well. Just make sure the pointy parts of the staple go onto this side because that's what's in the fuzzy side of the hook and loop. But that also works very well. So that's a new part. We're waiting for this actually to show up right now. As of, what is it, September 7th? Are we in the 7th or the 8th? We're 7th, I think. As of September 7th, 2022, we're just waiting for our stuff to show up from a factory overseas, but we'll be using this and having this on our website. You can find it from a lot of places. Adafruit.com has literally the exact same hook and loop. A lot of places do. It all comes from like the one same factory in China. It's all the same. And everyone sells it for almost exactly the same price, but it's not bad. We're using, I think, about a 1/4 inch right here of 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch. Works pretty well. Ends up being about, I can remember the back pricing, but it's fairly expensive per inch. So using a little bit of it goes a long ways. That's when you do a very simple thing. Now, if I was doing, say, an ugly Christmas sweater, hey, Pete, would you throw up a link to Natasha's ugly Christmas sweater? Yes. Natasha, our wonderful Makes Beautiful Thing contractor out in New Jersey, made a very nice, just conductive tape and LED ugly Christmas sweater. She actually did like kind of a big felt Christmas tree on her shirt. There's a link, Pete, through in the comments. That's a pretty fun activity to do. Again, it's just several LEDs. I believe she used a battery pack, a 2 AAA battery pack that she then hid like in a pocket, like in her pants pocket, to light up those LEDs. But that's a very easy way of adding lights to a shirt with just tape in no time flat. Doing that with conductor thread would have taken her hours to do, but took her minutes to do with tape. So tape is our secret sauce. So our ancient brown dog gadgets recipe sort of situation. But yeah, it's very easy to do a wearable circuit, both a ugly looking one like this or a fancy looking one like this using hot glue gems. I believe Andy also, we ordered some fun Halloween and Lego shaped silicone molds off Amazon to give them a try as well, because why not? Any final questions here as we hit 12 o'clock and the end of our workshop? I'm Josh from Brown Dog Gadgets. Please throw, we'll be here for another minute or two, but if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Thanks, Pete, for making that flash. But as I keep mentioning, all these resources are free on our website, whether or not you want to use our stuff. Please follow us on Twitter. We do post lots of projects all the time up there. Oh no, Pete, I forgot to show the thing that you brought over. Oh no, I totally forgot. We'd like an extension if we say I had way too much time. So a cool thing we've been putting together has been, let's get some LED. These are paper cubes with a part on them that are also magnetic. So if you want to make a really fun, silly thing, this is a very easy way of doing it with magnets. And this is a project Pete is just finishing up posting. And the template is really simple. We're using simple ceramic magnets we got off Amazon. Cheap, inexpensive ceramic ones, so they're nice and safe. And then zinc washers we got from our Home Depot because we couldn't find the ones we liked on Amazon. But we just tape them down on the underside. And we do it on both sides, and they're opposite each other. But then they just magnetically go together, and you can make yourself little circuit cubes. What are we officially calling these, Pete? Is it
paper circuits cubes? Paper
circuits cubes, but they're just magnets with washers, and then you can make fun cubes that stick together. It's really silly. We had somebody request this of us a while ago, but also this would work well for students with either physical disabilities who might not be able to have the dexterity involved to make circuitry projects. You can easily make your circuit like this. Oh, my fan was sucking up too much amperage from the battery, but you can work in so many fun things with this. We have just tons of different parts that Pete has made up over here. Here's a vibrating motor, which is, I'll hold it this way so it doesn't vibrate off. It's trying to vibrate itself off. Mechanical buzzer. Even actually, Pete also made a tilt switch, which is a fun one. So if you tilt it off, on, off, but just simple parts we had around our shop. This is a project Pete is working on right now to post. I think you just have the video to finish, right, Pete?
Yeah.
It'll be posted up on our website. Oh, it's already on our website? Oh, there's a website. Oh, there it is. The video's not there, but we have the templates, and this is super easy. And if you want to have your kids make these up on their own, it's paper and tape. It's just tape just goes down and not all the way to the bottom. So it's on two sides. And just, yeah, it comes together very easily for making your own switches and buttons and stuff. It's totally simple. Can we do this one too? Nope, nope. There we go. Look at this. I made a parallel circuit with a switch. Love the cubes. Does it come with the buzzer? Oh, we're not. So here's the thing. We're not going to sell this as a kit. This is the silly thing. This is what we do all the time. So if we just say buy one of our standard paper circuits kits, hey, Pete, would you grab one of the paper circuits kits from, there's a tub on the floor over there. We reorganized here. I know I should have had one ready. One of our paper circuits kits, it comes with LEDs, batteries, and tape. You can make your own switches and whatnot. If you want to add in like a vibrating motor or whatnot, we're going to actually have the fans with motors on our website. That's a new part for us too. This is what one of our paper circuits kits looks like, only shrink wrapped for $25. I believe Schiller sent out an email with a coupon as well for these off our website. You can get it from Schiller as well. But this is yay. But this is one of many things, like we kick out projects all the time. Like a tilt switch. I don't think we even sell tilt switches anymore. We used to have them on our website, but it's like a 10-cent part you can get from so many places, or might have come in like electronics kits. Teachers tend to have a lot of like these simple things around. This is a random buzzer we bought years ago off Amazon. They're like $2 each, $2.50 each. They're really expensive. We probably don't carry them, put them in our kits because they're really, like, put a lot more in for that much. But anyway, we just grabbed like, we have a big parts drawer wall in Pete's office of just tons of random parts. Like what parts would work with this? What might teachers or teachers do that? I don't know when the code expires. Probably not for a couple days. The code is actually for our website, I believe. Oh, there it is. Sorry, thanks. I don't know. I have to go look on my computer. Schiller Learning, that's the code. We make our discount codes easy. But for the paper circuits kit, but this is literally just one of the many projects. Like we just post new projects all the time. That's the thing. And if you have random, whatever random parts we had around, we threw onto here. Now watch this. I bet if I do this, all the LEDs go off because it draws too much amperage. Oh, the green. Although Pete, oh, will it work? Will it work? Oh, other way. That's right. Every motor is also a generator. Not always a good one, but it is. Oh, I forgot about these cubes. A whole box of cubes on my side here. Totally forgot. I'm all getting red from cubes. But again, we just like to post, Josh. We just like to post tons and tons of projects that you can use, either our stuff or stuff you might have around, because we find so many teachers have so much just electronics junk. I hate to say junk because it's just stuff. And the big question is, what can I do with all this stuff? And we like to make sure, like, look, if you have our conductive tape, one of our kits, bring in things you already have. You have some AA battery holders, use them. You have alligator clips, use them. Alligator clip to this stuff. Run tape off the side and alligator clip to something bigger, better. We like being very open and modular because we want people to try new things or use stuff they already have. Pete has in the ebook and also some write-ups on our website how to use like a paper clip to make a slide switch, a paper clip and a brass fastener. Again, two common office supplies that many people have around. Use that on here to make a little switch that goes back and forth, an easy on and off, a permanent on and off. Switch it over, it's on, switch it away. Great. One of the buttons Pete has, where is that? Oh, here we go. Here's a different button that Pete has. This is a momentary push button. You can, it's paper. It's a very, very simple push down, it makes a connection, pushes back up. Great. Pete has a very nice write-up that he did of making a very large knife switch out of cardboard, which is always a fun one to do. You could use that with this as well, just like a big knife switch. It's a couple of brass fasteners, cardboard from an Amazon box, and tape. And that's a very easy project for either kids. I always like when the kids can build things for useful things. Oh, nice switch. Thanks, Pete. And building your own gigantic switch is fun. And so I get really giddy because I like when kids can do the work themselves and they're like, look, I made this really stupid cube thing, which one comes out of it? It's cubes with magnets and literally, yeah, they're magnets everywhere. Where's the ceramic?
There was one that was partially assembled.
Here, these are ceramic magnets. They're smaller than a quarter, but they're nice and safe. They're not really strong. Like they really are fairly weak, but they work great for this. It's just enough that they'll click together for you. And if you have it backwards, they don't, I believe. I forget. Anyway, It's great because you can always label them positive, negative as well. But this is just something somebody requested because they saw somebody had done this. It was a professor out of Australia, right, Pete?
Yes.
That she had taken foam cubes, like just kids' foam cubes, and essentially done this. And they push the cubes together, you have a circuit. Like, that's cool, but magnets would make them stick together a little nicer so that, because you want to have a little bit more solid connection. And then especially get multiple cubes together, trying to push them all together, squish them all together by hand is kind of annoying. So why not just simple, I mean, they're not super strong magnets. They're not going to like the rare earth ones. But without the ceramic ones, you could, by the way, you could totally use rare earth magnets for this. We just thought due to safety concerns, the ceramic ones work just as well, but don't have that safety concern. But this is just a simple, make a cube, and we have the template pieces put out, which is just one side is this, one side is this. There's a couple different ones, like LEDs and switches, but they're straightforward. So these are things that we kick out all the time. This was literally a request from a person on Twitter, like, check this out. We're like, oh, we've seen it before. When a request from a couple other educators at an event for visually impaired students. We're like, how can we do some things that are for visually or dexterity impaired students? And this seemed like a good way to do things with vibrating motors, with cubes. We can feel things. You can put, we were thinking you can put braille-based information on the sides of these cubes because there's tons of space on them. And so you can easily label things and can feel things and interact with things. And especially kids who have not zero vision, but very, very poor vision. This again can make big color-coded, very obvious things like these cubes would work well for those kind of students, because why not? And it's paper circuits. And again, like motor with a fan, we had just got these in for another project that Kit were kicking out the door. So we're like, let's use one of these guys because I also can blow on it to make something light up, because why not? Now we have a generator, a little wind generator demo. So anyway, these are the weird things we kick out or we get requests. We're like, why not? We'll make a big guide about it, make a printable template, make an ebook, make a video. And we always put those up on our website, again, for free, because we have our kits already, or you literally have the stuff sitting around in your classroom or home right now. Just make it. Remember us for later, tell your friends, but follow us on Twitter, Brown Dog Gadgets on Twitter. We're almost at 10,000. We're within like 40 people of being at 10,000, which is great. We try to kick out some, like, look at the cool things we're working on. Here's a cool thing we found. Here's a project we posted. We don't do too heavy in marketing. But anywho, that's the gist of it. So if anybody else has a comment, otherwise I'm going to go to lunch. But the cubes, paper circuits cubes, our names are very obvious.
Thank you so much for this, Joshua. I loved your presentation.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, we'll end it there and let you get to lunch. You all have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day yourself. Goodbye.